Okay, so markets. Um, the cloud on the horizon is the carry trade. You got to watch for it. If the carry trade looks like it's getting unwound, it will have an impact. How much, I don't know, because we can't tell how big it is or where the funding, who's used it for funding. But we know that it's a big number, bigly, bigly number.
Bigly. Yeah. Um, and other than that, you're moderately bullish, right? Overall.
I love GDP. I love the earnings.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Markets and Madness. As we stay the place that we discuss the madness that occurs when economics, politics, and personalities all move in different directions. Tim and I again today, Wednesday afternoon. Job numbers came out this morning. A lot going on, Tim. We had the big rally in metals going into the end of January, reversal. Now things seem to have stabilized a bit, but I think anything can happen, and everybody's prepared for upsides and downsides at this point. What do you think?
This is probably one of the more confusing times in economics. I mean, the first thing to remember is that the economy is not the market. And you keep forgetting that, you know. But the economy is buzzing along. His strategy of shrinking the public sector and growing the private sector is clearly happening. And that's an extremely positive thing. And we haven't seen anything like that in years.
Right.
So that makes for a much more efficient economy, which has implications for inflation. It's better inflation. And earnings going forward are going to be great. You know, these companies are going to be selling to a much hotter market. You got personal income rising while inflation is dropping. All really positive stuff. Now, there is a cloud on the horizon. There always is. That's why there's a bid and an offer in the market.
Right.
There's always reasons to buy it and reasons to sell it. And the only cloud that I see that's worth discussing is the unraveling of the famous yen carry trade. Now, for anybody that's not familiar with the yen carry trade, I try to look up the size of the yen carry trade. I Googled this
Right.
morning. I got numbers from $500 billion to $18 trillion. When you build in the impact of derivatives, nobody knows the size of the carry trade. The only thing we know is it's big. So
Why don't
why
you
would we look
explain
at
the carry trade? Why don't you explain, because there's people that are going to have some confusion about what is the carry trade. We talk about
okay,
it, but
each economy has its own central bank and its own monetary policy. And in Japan, they've had a very aggressive low interest rate monetary policy for over a decade, maybe two. So we've seen negative interest rates in Japan. We've seen zero interest rates in Japan. And right now, rates have soared in Japanese terms from sort of 10 basis points to 75 basis points, which, you know, if you plotted a graph, looks huge. But when you look at a 75 basis point number to borrow and you compare it to a 3 or 3.5% number here in the US, depending on what end of the curve you're looking at, it doesn't look too significant. So let's say we're talking about a differential, just for argument's sake, of 2%. So you go to your bank and you want to build, you've got a project and you need $10 million. So your bank says, okay, here's your number. And maybe your number, I don't know, let's call it 6%. So I can give you dollars for 3 years at 6%, your banker says to you. And you say, well, is there any way I can get cheaper money? And the banker says, well, yeah, you can, but you can't get it in dollars. You can get it in yen. I can book a yen loan to you and you only pay 4% for 3 years. Well, what the hell am I going to do with the yen? You say. And your banker says, well, you could exchange it for dollars. Or put another way, you could sell the yen and buy dollars. Or look at it a third way, you could say, well, then you have a short yen position because in 3 years you're going to have to repay this loan and you're going to need yen from it for this loan, and you don't have it, you have dollars. So effectively, you got a yen commitment, you're short yen. So if nothing happens to the spot yen over the next 3 years, you've saved yourself 2%. But if yen goes down by 1%, you've saved yourself 3% because you're going to buy yen 1% cheaper. But if yen goes up, you got a 2% margin to work with here. So if yen goes up by more than 2%, well, it's going to cost you more. So you're at risk. You are vulnerable to a rising spot yen. You're short yen. You got to cover that commitment in 3 years.
Right.
So the interest rates are one thing. The rates are moving up. It doesn't affect you. You already made your loan. You don't care where interest rates go. But the exchange rate, that's another story. Now, the yen exchange rate has dropped about 3%. The yen has strengthened against the dollar by about 3 to 4% since the election in the last couple of weeks. You got a conservative government now. Both houses are conservative and a conservative prime minister. So things are changing in Japan in a big way. And Trump is loving it, and China's hating it. And he's going to take that into consideration in tariff talks and trade negotiations. So if you're short yen, you got to look at this with one eye on the screen all the time and wonder, because you got to buy back yen, and the more expensive it gets, the more your margin hurts. So if you're a hedge fund and you weren't worried about building a building, but you're financing your portfolio and you're financing it 2% cheaper, well, you're in that identical position. So you're vulnerable to a rising yen. So that's the cloud on the horizon, which sits here for the equities market. Anybody who's done the yen carry trade and borrowed yen to finance their book has enjoyed a positive carry. And that positive carry shrinks as the yen goes up. So that's the cloud on the horizon.
And there's also,
worry about? I don't know.
as you mentioned in the beginning, with Japanese rates going from essentially 0% to 0.75%, a lot of that carry trade is disappearing. I mean, this is something that we saw back in the 80s with the Swiss franc, and the dollar was the beneficiary, right? That people would borrow dollars, right? Or I should say invest in dollars, borrow Swiss francs at 0% or negative, invest in the US, buy real estate, buy equities, and you had a double-edged sword because you had huge gains in the equity and real estate markets, and then you had the benefit of the currency translation as well.
Yeah, and that's the situation we're in now. So I tried to get a handle on how big the yen carry trade is. And even if I knew how big it was, let's say I came up with a number and it was $4 trillion. How much of that is financing equity positions? How much of it is financing bond positions? How much of it is financing deals, real estate deals? There's no way to tell,
Right.
or at least no way for me to know. So we know it's big. We don't know how big, and we don't know how it's apportioned. But that's something that you got to watch.
Yeah, the capital markets always fearful of the carry trade unwind.
Right. So if the markets start to focus on the carry trade unwinding, which I haven't seen yet, but if the markets start to focus on it, could be a vulnerability. Now, there's all kinds of great news in this market. Corporate earnings look terrific. And they seem like there's no stock in. We're talking about GDP of 5%. Wasn't that long ago? It was 1.7, 1.8. Now we're talking at 5% as a throwaway number. And with people talking even higher. Okay, Trump, pay attention to him, take him seriously, but don't take him literally. But who knows? Maybe he's right, you know? I don't think so. I don't see 15%. I don't think I've ever seen 15% growth. Although maybe when we came out of COVID, you probably could make an argument that on a month.
I think there was like 10, 12. Yeah, I think, from those really depressed numbers.
But even 5%,
Yeah.
That
It's
shrinks the cost to carry the debt dramatically.
it's China numbers, you
The
know.
deficit's a much
This,
smaller percentage of GDP,
yeah.
and the deficit looks smaller in comparison, and it's much easier to carry as tax revenues become commensurate with a 5% GDP. So these are all very positive signs. But there's one cloud I see on the horizon, which bothers me, is the carry trade.
Yes, I mean the carry trade is a potential unwind. We've seen a couple of flash crashes in the past when people started to get fearful of the carry trade unwind. But you know, I said it last week. I'm still on. I'm afraid that we're at a lot of round numbers now, and round numbers always bother me. 50,000 in the Dow, 7,000 in the S&P. You know, gold at 5,000. A lot of round numbers that we're bumping up against. We've made on a technical basis. We've tried 3 or 4 highs. Try to break these highs. If you look at a chart in both the Dow and the S&P, and we're making new highs, no doubt about it. But can we sustain this?
Well, um, I
Like it
would
looks
point,
too rosy, and things look too good. You know?
well, I would point to rotation.
Yeah.
There's other sectors that you can think about. You know, the healthcare sector has been in the toilet. I guess that's still relatively cheap, although it's found a bid of late. So if money comes out of technology, has been driving it for the last 2 years. All we've heard of is there's 7 stocks in the market. You know,
Right.
so there's a lot of room for that to come off, I suppose. Although people are still in love with AI and quantum is still lurking in the shadows with years to go before we start to see revenue
Right. True
result
benefits.
from
Right.
sales. I saw D-Wave made a sale to FAU, Florida, FAU University. Um, so there are quantum computers being sold, but really it's negligible
Hmm.
compared to where it could be. So the technology sector is, I guess it's frothy and maybe it's got room to come down. But, you know, I looked at Palantir earnings. They were great. Meanwhile, the stock is off 20%. You know,
Right.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
we move it to other rotation.
20%, isn't it? I mean, wasn't that stock up near 200? It's 130 now, or
I guess off
180?
the highs. Yeah, it's 137, I think.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks ago, after the earnings, it got up to 150 something.
Yeah.
I mean, these
I
numbers
don't
are just
know.
enormous.
Mindset reading 1929 puts me in a very negative state. You know, the euphoria, the cheap money, what it led to, how long it took for that really to break. I guess that's distorting my present frame of mind.
Well,
I'm
the
in
only
the
thing I could suggest to you is that was about 100 years ago.
yeah,
And it was a very different economy 100 years ago.
yeah,
100 years ago, did you even have a phone?
yeah, yeah.
Now you got a
And
computer in the form of a phone that you carry with
um, but it's the whole point of getting retail so involved and getting retail so involved on margin, and retail is very involved. You
you.
know,
And margin is very involved.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that, you know, we talked about it briefly last week, I guess, off air, where you said we've had two trips down, and the third one, if it breaks, it breaks, right?
It did break. We
It
had the third
didn't.
trip and it rallied,
Yeah,
put 1,000 points right in the back.
yeah.
People got smacked in the nose.
But you know, we're seeing all of this, and I don't know where it's going to lead to, but all of this Epstein stuff that's coming out, all of these names, these people that they're talking about, could that break it? Could we have central bankers? Could we have politicians that are so involved that it's going to break this? And you know,
I don't know. There is, by the way, the Epstein files have unleashed a lot of information. There is no truth to the rumor that Bill Clinton said, "Yeah, in that picture, I had a date with a 12-year-old, but she had the body of an 8-year-old."
that's
That's been debunked. No truth to that.
thank goodness.
Although Hillary may have said it, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I I look at this, all of this stuff that's coming out, and been reading for years about the system's got to break, the system's got to break, and I'm just wondering, are we getting closer and closer to the break point? I don't know.
You know, it's impossible to answer that question because this market doesn't look anything like the market we grew up in. We
Right?
didn't really have a shadow banking system, which we do now. Private equity and private credit dwarfs the banking system we used to know in
Hmm.
numbers. So
Yeah.
if that goes, yeah, that's a problem. And that could very well go. I'm still a little concerned about that. Have you seen Carvana today?
No.
It's like they split the stock, but they didn't issue shares.
Also, just on the fraud earnings from last
Well,
week.
I don't know what did it, but it's off like $40 today, and it's been off. You know, I've had puts. I sold one of them today, um, and I still got short positions on it, and I'll keep short positions on. God knows where the stock's going to go. If private equity cracks, this stock's really going to go.
Right.
But anyway, that's not a tip. I'm not telling you anything. I'm only telling you what my book looks like.
Right.
Go away, regulators.
Right. Yep. Yep. This is not investment advice, not at all. We're just talking about generalities. Yeah. Um, Gold and silver still back on the move, but we had the flush out, and now we go back up. What do
I
you
guess
think?
so. I guess, and still short dollars.
Yeah.
Got a little long Swiss franc position. Um, I'm into black a little bit. I was more into black this morning than I was, so dollar firmed up, I suppose, during the intraday.
Hmm.
But dollar looks like a sale.
Now the dollar looks like a sale, but you say there's so many positives for the economy.
Well, the economy's not the market.
It's not the equity market, but the dollar is going to follow the economy. It's going to follow all of that in terms of interest rates and
Well, it's more sensitive. I would argue that the dollar is far more sensitive to the bond market than the stock market. And yields have dropped. Yields are lower.
right.
So that's bearish for the dollar. It's not the only factor, but it's bearish. And we got this famous carry trade thing, which is drawing capital into Japan,
Right.
and money's been going into the emerging markets. You know, maybe that's
Yeah, I
where
think
you're going to
emerging
find.
markets. I think emerging markets are a winner going forward. Latin America, I think that's a lot of positive signs there. We've seen it in Argentina, in Chile, to a lesser extent Brazil. But
You know, the whole world is going crazy to conservative except us. We
right,
seem to have had our swing. Uh, I'll tell you what's wrong. There's a significant portion of this population where the perfect has become the enemy of the good, where they look at a situation and they don't look at any of the positives. They find a negative to focus on.
well, isn't that
And
politics? That's what politics is all about, right?
well, I would argue that the problem with politics is there's too many lawyers in it. For all you lawyers out there, think about this. They taught you in law school if you can, if you don't have much and you can find one little kernel that supports your argument, blow it out of proportion and make it look like everything else. And that's what's been happening,
Right.
you know. The net immigration for the country is a net positive. Our picture here, deportation of illegals, I don't care how you look at it, is fiscally a net positive for us. That's good for the economy. We had a situation where we were hemorrhaging.
Hmm.
Stop the bleeding, turn that around. And the
And
economy's showing it.
just see what went on in New York. We had a former New York Mayor Adams a year ago, 2 years ago, saying we got a $12 billion budget deficit because of trying to support these illegal immigrants who've come into the city. He was, you know, obviously wasn't voted back in. Now we have Zoran Mandani saying that the former mayor left me with a $12 billion budget deficit. It really is comical. Like, the guy's saying, I can't withstand this. Yet the previous administration chastised him and had the DOJ investigate him. And I'm not an Adams fan by any means, but I think he was painted with the wrong brush.
Well, the sanctuary cities are fighting the deportation effort tooth and nail, yet from a fiscal standpoint, it saves their lives. Go figure. I don't know.
Yeah. It's what Elon keeps saying, that the whole point of this immigration is a vote capture.
Well, look at Minnesota. I mean, if you really want to look at a situation where they've taken immigration, legal or illegal, I don't care what it is, they've taken the sanctuary city to the point where there's such a powerful voting bloc now that in order to buy their votes, you got to close your eyes to overt fraud.
Yeah.
And massive numbers, and numbers the likes of which we've never even seen. And how deep is that?
Yeah.
And there's the market that's really, if you want to look at a market where you really got to be careful, it's the municipal bond market. Because these municipalities are sitting on God knows what, It's a trash bin that's closed and you have no idea what's in it, whether it's on fire,
Right.
Muni bond market, God, that's an accident waiting to happen. Would you buy Minnesota municipal state bonds? I don't think so. I don't see a bid for that stuff. I have no
Well,
idea what they look like. But
I guess if they find all of this fraud that they've been talking about and they really announce it, then the whole picture looks so much better, I guess, right? I don't know.
They still got to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
They got to go to federal government.
Yeah. And what are they going to find in Illinois and California and New York and New Jersey and all the blue states? I'm sure there's patronage. I mean, you saw it up in North Jersey 10 years ago, was it? Right? Everything's
Trump used to give New Jersey 30 days to leave the country. It's what I saw in that election that I got involved in on a small scale. I can't even begin to imagine what these elections look like. And they're finding election fraud all over the place, but it doesn't exist. It
Right.
doesn't exist.
We had
How
60,
could it not exist?
60 court cases that, the 2020 election is pure.
And I heard a guy just last week say, well, there's so little fraud, election fraud. Well, how do you know? How do you know that?
Right. Right.
If you don't look for it, how do you know?
And I think you brought this up last week or the week before, that voter ID, 80% of the country wants voter ID, yet they won't even bring it to the table. Right.
I saw a headline yesterday. It might have been on AOL. The headline was, Trump endorses a voting law that would hurt married women. Because somebody raised the point that a woman who gets married and changes her name needs a new ID, voter ID. So she might be prevented from voting and that was the argument. And that was the headline.
Right.
So you tell me.
I don't know. None of it makes any sense.
Okay, so markets. The cloud on the horizon is the carry trade. You got to watch for it. If the carry trade looks like it's getting unwound, it will have an impact. How much, I don't know, because we can't tell how big it is or where the funding, who's used it for funding. But we know that it's a big number. Bigly number.
Bigly. Yeah. And other than that, you're moderately bullish, right? Overall.
I love GDP. I love the earnings.
Right.
I think we're going to have periods where people look at the round numbers and the fluffiness in the market. And I got a couple of short positions to benefit from that. And I've been trading around my book. I got a book
Hmm.
for long term. I mean, I bought 2 year calls on Tesla, for example. That's going to look ugly at some point. I don't know. I'm going to bury my head in the sand and, you know, hope my short positions keep me in it. But these are very volatile markets. I mean,
Oh yeah.
this is not for the faint-hearted.
That's yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we've seen just the way the metals have reacted the first month of the year. We're 5 weeks into the year, 6 weeks into the year, and we've seen volatility that we've never seen before
Yeah.
in gold and silver, even in the
That,
S&P and the Dow.
that call, we've made that call now for 2 years running.
Yeah,
Buy vol, buy vol, buy vol.
right.
Whenever it gets cheap, buy it.
Yep. Buy it when you can, not when you have to.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. All right.
Okay.
Well, good chatting today. Good luck.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Good to
it.
talk to you.
All right. Bye.
Okay.